Hello and welcome to Comic Drake, where I talk about comic books and my name is Drake. Everybody knows the origin story. After billionaire Bruce Wayne's parents were killed right in front of him at a young age, he traveled the world and became a master of, well, everything. Because Batman. But what all did that really entail? Let's find out. Before we dive in, I need to make it very clear that there are multiple Batmen across the multiverse. So for this video, we are specifically taking a look at the Bruce Wayne in the mainstream DC Comics New Earth/Prime Earth continuity. It's also worth noting that there is some really silly stuff that has been retconned away, like a young Bruce Wayne acting as a junior detective in a prototype Robin costume. We've tried to be more than thorough to get all of the facts straight and relevant, so with that out of the way, let's dive in. Bruce Wayne's parents were murdered in front of him between the ages of 7 and 10. Honestly, it depends on the writer. Now, we don't get many glimpses into Bruce's childhood, but based on what we have seen, Bruce already had skills in basic vehicle repair, archery, and research/data analysis. In fact, Wayne mastered speed reading and total memory recall at a young age, which led to him quickly being able to pick up and master techniques, such as lip reading and lockpicking. Bruce was also taught several skills by his butler, Alfred. Alfred was a field mechanic for MI5 and a trained actor, and he passed along several relevant skills, including combat medicine, acting, mastery of disguises, and voice mimicry. We also know that at some point in his life, Bruce was a student at the prestigious Gotham Academy, but was expelled. Considering that Bruce was thought to be dead during the latter half of his training abroad, it can be assumed that he attended Gotham Academy beforehand. Having learned essentially all that he could in Gotham, Bruce began his journey at the age of 14, where it looks like he started by picking up boxing from Ted Grant, a world champion heavyweight boxer who went on to become the vigilante Wildcat. It's worth noting that while learning how to throw a proper punch is important, Bruce picked up an even more valuable skill under Wildcat's tutelage: how to take a hit. Bruce stuck around in America for a good while and became a pupil of Giovanni Zatara, a world-renowned illusionist and literal magician. From Zatara and his daughter Zatanna, Wayne learned sleight of hand, ventriloquism, and escape artistry, the latter of which Bruce got further training with from a man named Max Dodge. At age 19, Wayne traveled to Rio de Janeiro and studied with renowned criminal Don Miguel to learn how to drive and use specialty cars, which would go on to greatly impact the design of the Batmobiles. After learning all that he could, Bruce ultimately sabotaged a heist and left Don Miguel for the police. Now, although we've mostly been focusing on Batman's physical talents and strengths, let's take a quick break and look at how Bruce trained his mind. As he traveled around, Bruce studied at several prestigious colleges, including but not limited to Cambridge, the Sorbonne, and the Berlin School of Science. However, Bruce would only take classes here and there that he deemed important, and he would stay at each school for maybe a semester or two at the very most. 6 years after starting his journey, Bruce returned to America at the age of 20, where he briefly helped out in the Chicago Police Department under a detective named Dan Mallory before enlisting in the FBI. Although they preferred college graduates, the FBI waived all academic requirements when they saw that Bruce scored a perfect score on every single test they threw at him, save for gun handling, which, well, obviously. Wayne was put into FBI training where he studied under an agent named Arthur McCree, who taught Bruce the value of maintaining a criminal alias in order to pull information from the criminal underground. It was this training that led Bruce to eventually take on the Matches Malone persona. After training, Bruce only spent 6 weeks in service of the FBI since he was fed up with having to work within the FBI system and came to the conclusion that in order to exact justice properly, he'd have to work outside of the law. This marked a turning point in Bruce's journey, as he traveled east and learned every Korean martial art from a master named Kirigi in North Korea, who has trained several members of the League of Assassins. Bruce also learned Kung Fu from Master Chu Chen Li in China and Ninjutsu from Yakuza assassin Sunitomo in Japan. After all of this martial arts training, Bruce moved on to Egypt, where he studied under the ex-KGB super scientist Sergei Alexandrov. Not only did Wayne become one of the world's greatest engineers under Sergei's guidance, but he was also tested on finding unconventional solutions to problems. But while still in Africa, Bruce trained with a group called the Ten-Eyed Brotherhood. Wayne has said that these guys kill demons, but it was never quite clear if he meant literal demons or metaphorical. But because it's the goddamn Batman, yeah, probably literal demons. Anyway, Bruce left Africa and flew to France, where he became the apprentice of Henry Ducard, a world-class manhunter. Along with Ducard's bastard son Morgan, Wayne further honed his detective, tracking, and intelligence gathering skills, but left after unknowingly helping the Ducards exact an assassination instead of bringing the target to Interpol. Although he disagreed with the assassination side of the Ducards' business, Bruce was also a student of one of the world's greatest assassins, David Kane. You might know him as the father of Cassandra Cain, one of the Batgirls. Despite learning all of Kane's killing blows, Bruce has never used these techniques, believing that knowing how to kill would make him better at avoiding it. Additionally, Wayne learned from the legendary martial arts master Shihan Matsuda. Not only did he further hone his already incredible martial arts skills, but Bruce gained mastery over his body, including his body temperature. In fact, here's a shot of Bruce melting the ground below him in the freaking Himalaya mountains with nothing but his body heat and determination. Because Batman. Let's also not forget that Wayne was trained by one of the world's greatest martial artists and a forgotten part of the DC universe, Richard Dragon. He's a strange case in that Dragon originally first appeared in a series of novels in 1974, but was later adapted for the DC Universe a year later, and has stuck around since. Wayne's spiritual journey continued into the Tangula Shan Mountains, where he learned the light side of Taoism from a master named Xiao La, who also trained Batman in the art of hang gliding, which he would later perfect in Yugoslavia with his glider cape. Anyway, while Bruce learned a lot from Xiao La, he never really quite got Taoism, so he trained in the dark side with a master named Hassan Tan, which I'm pretty sure that I butchered. Regardless, this man was so powerful that he could literally make others perceive him as invisible. Now, despite the potential, Wayne ended up not staying with this master for long and didn't pick up this ability, which is a real shame because an invisible Batman would be even more terrifying than just him kind of blending in that he already does. At the age of 24, Bruce was in Norway, where he competed in pit fighting for 28 hours straight simply because he refused to kill. In the end, Bruce won because nobody else was brave enough to face him. Holy crap! The final mentor that we know Bruce worked alongside of was a bounty hunter named Willie Doggett in Alaska. The man they were tracking killed Doggett, but Bruce was able to fight him off until the target fell off a mountain and took Bruce's parka with him. After being rescued by a shaman, Wayne finally returned home and began his career as a vigilante. Now, this basically marks the end of my research, but we did get a rapid-fire list of other people Bruce had learned from in Batman number 434 and 435, as they were killed off one by one and were placed in knockoff Batman suits before their death. A lot of these guys get so little history that all we get is their last name, so let's breeze through it. There's Kingsley the chemist, LaSalle the bodybuilder, Mark Jenner the race car driver, Peter Allison the gymnast, Rafael DeJorda the crossbow archer, Aurelius Bach the toxicologist, Weber the acid expert, and Shrastri the herpetologist. All of these mentors were killed off by a demolitions expert named Frederick Stone, who deduced that he had trained Batman when he saw him use a bomb disarming technique that he had invented. After faking his own death, Stone murdered all of Batman's other mentors that he could find in hopes that by tying up those loose ends, Batman's enemies couldn't discover his secret identity and in turn wouldn't kill Frederick Stone himself. Now clearly this is a lot of information, and by the time that Bruce Wayne had completed his journey, he was an expert in nearly every single style of combat, having mastered every weapon and martial art known to man. Along his travels, Bruce became fluent in nearly every single language known to man and learned most of the world's history. He has mastered ancient spiritual disciplines, more skills than anyone could possibly ever know what to do with, and mental techniques allowing him to process information at an insane rate. Even after becoming Batman, Bruce continues to learn all that he can, and now has access to even more teachers, like the Green Arrow himself teaching him archery. In fact, we will never quite know everything that Batman has ever learned because the list keeps on getting bigger every single day. Now, despite the fact that I have combed through decades and decades of Batman lore in order to make this video, I'm sure there's an obscure detail or two that I missed out on. So if you know any of these details that weren't in this video, then please leave them down there in the description below, because I'd love to know. But if you like this video, then why not consider subscribing, or even watching another one? In fact, you probably like Batman if you watched this, so why not check out my entire playlist of Batman videos? There's a bunch of them, so maybe you'll like those. Anyway, hopefully I'll see you next time, and thanks for watching.